It was also the Hamptons bar. Very unpretentious. Everyone was treated equally. It wasn't a place for people born on third base who think they hit a triple.
It's like a family, it feels like.
Yeah, it's a family that actually gets along.
Fantastic. You don't find that a lot.
I will forever be grateful to the folks at Stephen Talkhouse, who not only came up with an idea to raise money and awareness for my generation of wounded warriors, but in the end did so much more. They didn't just raise money, they changed my life and profoundly impacted the lives of so many others of my brothers and sisters in arms.
Are you looking forward to anything this upcoming season?
Sirius XM Radio does shows there, and I can't thank the people at Sirius, especially the president of Sirius, Scott Greenstein, who lives down the road, because he's really put the Talkhouse, taken the Talkhouse wherever we were, and thrown us 10 notches up the ladder by having performers like Coldplay, like The Killers, like Mumford & Son,
Ed Sheeran,
like Dwight Yoakam, like Brandy Alexander, Brandy Carlisle. Brandy Alexander, that's a Freudian slip. Like Shaggy, like Dave Matthews, like Ed Sheeran, like Jelly Roll. So if they come up with something, I'll be thrilled, and we'll see if they do. That's always a magical time.
Welcome to POV Hamptons, where real conversations meet soulful perspectives. I'm Anastasia Gavalis, your host, inviting you into the lives of visionaries, change makers, and creatives shaping the East End. This isn't just any podcast. It's a movement with real people, unfiltered stories, authentic voices, and elevated insights. We shine a light on the individuals making waves in our community. We explore the ideas shaping the Hamptons and the moments that carry life's deepest lessons. From inspiring journeys to transformative conversations, this show reveals the true heartbeat of this iconic destination. One high-vibing episode at a time. So settle in. You're about to discover what makes this place truly extraordinary. Let's dive in.
Welcome to POV Hamptons. My guest today is a true cornerstone of the East End, one of the visionaries behind an iconic Hamptons institution. Born and raised in New York City, he's a Columbia graduate who began his career as a newspaper reporter for the New York Post. Seeking a different kind of story, he moved to East Hampton and Ibiza to try his hand at novel writing. In his words, though, the results weren't exactly Pulitzer-worthy. For the past 38 years, he's been the beating heart of Stephen Talkhouse, transforming it into a world-class live music venue where icons, locals, and rising stars alike have taken the stage. He didn't just run the bar, he built a movement, turning Talkhouse into a place where unforgettable nights and iconic performances are part of the fabric. Beyond the bar, he is also very passionate about supporting the Wounded Warrior Project and once led his local softball team to play Goodwill games, beating the Orioles to the field in 1999. His legacy lives on through his children, Max, who now manages the bar, and Ruby, who helped create Encore Talkhouse Drink. And later this year, a coffee table book will be released capturing the bar's rich history. Please welcome Peter Honerkamp.
Hi.
Hi. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. It's been really exciting to get to know you a little bit, and I'm excited for this conversation because I think when you think of iconic places, Talkhouse is iconic, and I really wanted to get to know the man behind that. So tell me a little bit. I did read somewhere that you were being prepped maybe for the family lumber business at one point in the Bronx?
Well, I mean, my family ran a lumber business in the Bronx, and that was always open to me. But no, that wasn't a door I was ever going to walk through.
Right. So just looking back at at what shaped your actions that you ended up all the way out here. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I wanted to be a writer, and so I started out in the newspaper business, but I became disillusioned with the type of journalism that the Post was practicing when none other than Rupert Murdoch took it over, which occurred when I was there. So I quit. and I came to the East End to try to write a novel. And I wrote it. It wasn't bar talk. I actually got up every day and wrote, whether in East Hampton or in Ibiza, which I fell in love with at the time, and finished it. And I was very depressed because it wasn't any good. And I had worked a job that I didn't like in order to provide me the time to write. And I justified doing a job I didn't like because I was creating this art. And I was very depressed one night, and I had been drinking a lot with a guy named Clifford Irving, who wrote the bogus biography of Howard Hughes, for which he went to jail. He wrote it thinking he'd get away with it. Howard Hughes would not bother him to deny that it was an authorized biography. He was wrong. So he had to give back $500,000, I think, to Random House and spend some time in jail. But he became a friend of mine. And one night when we were drinking, he said, was there anything else you wanted to do? Because I told him I couldn't write anymore. And I said, yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to own a bar. So the Stephen Talkhouse was closed at the time, and I used to love drinking there. And he said, buy that bar. And if he hadn't said that, I don't know how many lives would have been very different than they are today, because that led me to buy the bar and start live music there. I had grown up going to a bar in Roslyn called My Father's Place. That was a very famous music institution that ran from roughly 1970 to 1987, that my brother and a lot of my friends frequented. And they had amazing acts there. So I think that kind of inspired me to try to put music in the Talkhouse, which it didn't have. And a lot of celebrities helped me get that started out here, and still do.
Growing up, Bronx? Born in the Bronx,
No,
right?
I was born in Brooklyn, and I grew up in Queens.
Okay, that's right. Douglaston.
Yes.
St. Anastasia.
My mother was a teacher there.
Yes, we have a connection there as well. Did you ever imagine, like, just coming out here? I know that you had done, it wasn't a car salesman, it was ambulance sales? Is that what led you out here at first? Just to...
I was chasing a woman, but yeah, she worked at Gurney's. That's what led me out here at first.
Oh my gosh.
And then another woman broke my heart, so I was moving to Colorado, but I was selling ambulances in order to make a living to write, because I was a commission salesman, and I could take 2 days off and write the great American novel, and then work 3 days to make a buck. And I came out and sold one to the Amagansett Fire Department in the winter, and I said, I like this place. It's okay off season, it's okay on season, and I decided to stay.
It's really special. I mean, I feel blessed to be able to live there and call that my home as well. I mean, it's magical.
I love Amagansett. I live part of the year in Key West.
Don't tell everyone.
No, I won't.
We got to keep it a secret. It's out there already. Yeah. Thanks to Stephen Talkhouse. So let's talk about the history of, that's what POV Hamptons is really looking at the real Hamptons, like what really exists out here. Now, Stephen Talkhouse, from what I read it to be, was named in 1970, I believe, by the person
the prior
who
owner, yeah.
The prior
Buddy
owner.
Pontek, he's still around. Lives down in Florida now. He came up with the idea because Stephen Talkhouse was a local Indian who was quite famous. He was a Montaukett Indian. He lived out in Montauk, where he's buried. You can go visit his grave. All his braves are buried in a circle surrounding him. And his claim to fame was he was a great walker. So he fought in the American Civil War. He was in Barnum and Bailey's circus. But his real claim to fame was he could walk great distances. And he'd win walking races, walking to Chicago and walking to New York. And he delivered the mail out here. The railroad only came to Bridgehampton. So he'd go around Montauk and Wainscott and Springs to your house and get your envelopes, and you'd give him whatever small amount of money it was, and he'd drop them in the Bridgehampton station, and that's how your mail got to New York, and then he'd pick it up and deliver it to you on the way back for a small amount of money.
Love it.
And so his name was Stephen Farrow Talkhouse. They named it Stephen Talkhouse after that character. Talkhouse is a great name for the bar. So when I got it, and Buddy helped me, even though he was no longer involved, helped me get it started, we kept the name.
Love it. I love that you honor that story, the history, the legend, all of it. It makes sense, and it really actually it just justifies everything that it's all about, right? Community and gathering, and really a really special place out here. I heard originally it was a home of a whaler. Do we know if the actual building itself was
Yes,
the home
it was
of
the actual. It was a home of a whaler named Erastus Barnes, and the Talkhouse was built in 1832. It's one of the oldest places out here in the Hamptons, and he was indeed a whaler. And Stephen Talkhouse himself actually did some whaling. I don't know if he ever was on Erastus Barnes' boat, but there was a lot of whaling that occurred back then in the 1800s
Sure.
out of Sag Harbor.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love it, and it feels like that when if you could feel the history. I feel as you walk into Stephen Talkhouse. I mean, I like that you haven't torn it down and then just redid it and created a modern structure. There's something very authentic about it, and it really was that always the vision from the beginning.
I mean, it was always a beat up dive of a bar. We've tried to make it safe and do improvements, but still keep the old rustic look. And it was in its manifestation in the 17 years before I got it. It was also the Hamptons bar. Very unpretentious. Everyone was treated equally. It wasn't, it wasn't a place for people born on third base who think they hit a triple.
I so appreciate that. And I think from what you've told me and just the feeling that I got the few times that I've been there, I'll get there more this summer for sure. But the people who have worked for you. You've got most of your employees there for a long time.
For a long time. Larry Wagner's been there 45 years. Philip Vega's been there 38 years. We lost two people who worked here this year. We were here 32 and 18 years, respectively. But there's got to be 20 people that are there 20 years or more. So it's impossible to get fired, and no one ever quits. And
It's too much fun.
it's too much fun. And they're all lunatics, so no one's going to try and hire them away from me.
Perfect. You got a great chemistry going.
No
then.
headhunters.
Yeah. That's great. Do you remember the first day you opened, and what was that like?
I mean, it was just, yes, I do. I mean, it was exciting. It was August 1st of 1987, and, it was like a dream come true. And we decided to do music. My cousin at the time, he still plays there, Cliff Black, another guy who's worked there 38 years, he started playing there. And then a local musician who had national stature named John Hammond, who lived in Springs, was the first national act that played there. And we had a very small stage then. The Talkhouse stage, where it is now, is a driveway.
Okay.
So where the dance floor is now is actually the stage. And it was maybe 8 feet wide by 6 feet deep. And bands would come in and go, well, where's the stage? And we'd go, you're standing on it. But we made it work.
Yeah. And now it's even expanded. I don't know if it's
We
recently
expanded in 1994, so we now have a stage that's, 15 feet deep by 24 feet wide. And that can fit a lot bigger bands that I could never really get in the past.
So I'm sure there's so much history. There are so many stories, as you've shared already with me. Is there a sort of a beginning story that people don't know about, or something that happened in the beginning, whether it was that you knew it was going to work, you sort of had it in your gut that it was going to work, or something wasn't going to work, or like, how did you come to just make it happen?
There was such there wasn't a lot of live music like there is now out on the East End, either in the East Hampton or throughout the Hamptons. And the response was overwhelming in that first year to every show. And so, Taj Mahal played in January, couldn't hear a pin drop. February, Loudon Wainwright played, and Richie Havens. And these were iconic figures in their own right. Billy Joel and Christy Brinkley came in to see shows. But it was actually, if I had to pick one that first year, in July of that year, Albert Collins, who's a great, great, great guitar player, came in. And Jimmy Buffett was there to see him. Jan Wenner, the publisher of Rolling Stones, was there to see him. And Albert Collins said, I love this club, and I'm going to come back and play tomorrow night for free. And he did. And there was a little-known guy who's no longer around, either of them are, Charles Beatty, who was going to play that night with a band, and there would have been 20 people there because no one knew who he was. Right. Instead, it was packed. But here was a high caliber performer who said, "I like what these people are trying to do, and I'm going to play there for free." And the gestures that we've received, not only from people who work there and patrons, but from performers that perform there, have mirrored that ever since.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think it's like this sacred gathering place, right? And it's local, it's so authentic.
It's got that great vibe, and you can't cut the line because you'd bribe anyone. There's a big sign when you go in: customers come and customers go. At the Talkhouse, the employee is always right. So that's
tells you something, yes.
And we do a lot for the community. And it was interesting in COVID when we were shut down. I got countless checks in the mail from people in the community to keep the staff afloat. So it came back. But we're able to do fundraisers there all the time. There'll be 3 in the next 10 days for the Kendall Madison Foundation, the middle school, and I think the other one's the spring school. I'm not really sure. We just did one last week for a very close friend of the bar who's got serious medical issues and was in a bad car crash, and the whole town turns out. And we're happy to do that, but we get to do that repeatedly in the community. One quick side story that resonates for a variety of reasons, but it was at a time when I was not doing well financially and emotionally. I was going through a split up, and a bartender there was also going through a tough time. Chris Carney came up with a crazy idea. We were doing concerts to help soldiers, local soldiers who had been blown up in Iraq and Afghanistan, that he would get on not a motorcycle, a bicycle, and bicycle across America. And we put a beer pitcher in front of the bar, raised enough money for him and Tech Vacaloloma, who drove a support vehicle behind him, to bicycle across country. We went down to Walter Reed, to the amputee ward, found a guy who had started something called the Wounded Warrior Project. He had raised about $5,000 or $6,000. He bought into us. Chris bicycled across America. We raised millions of dollars. And more significantly, a single-leg amputee, Ryan Kelly, and a double-leg amputee, Heath Calhoun, biked with him and said, "If you do it again, we'll do it with you." And they bicycled back across America with them. And this time, soldiers came from all across America because it was not just a fundraising tool, and we wound up raising over $10 million, but it was a rehabilitative tool. So instead of being relegated to their hospital bed, where they're just talking to their doctors and loved ones, they were getting out of their beds, feeling like vital young men and women again, empowering each other, setting the example for the incoming wounded. And because of that, 200,000 soldiers and their caregivers have been impacted. And the soldier rides, which we still do out in East Hampton every July, I just came back from one we've done for 20 years in Florida, have thousands of soldiers that have participated in them, who suffered a variety of physical as well as mental illnesses. And I can tell you a dozen of them have come up to me and said, if it wasn't for you guys in that bar, I would have committed suicide.
It's just so powerful, this story, when you first told me about it. I mean, to think that, it's just a bar, or it's, you're a bar owner, and then to realize or to recognize that these people who have sacrificed their lives for the country go out, get injured, badly, right? And then there's a lot of, perspective of like, why did this happen? And then your efforts, along with the people who you work with, to be able to create an opportunity where their perspective completely shifts, their inner belief of themselves, right? Believing that they could do something.
I have to read you something, but I got to find my glasses. Did someone grab them?
Yes, we'll get your glasses. I know, I feel your passion, and I'm so happy that for one of the things that we spoke about when we first met was this, because you've changed perspectives, you've changed lives and the trajectory of their lives, and they then in return empower others who are in their same position or worse, or have things that they just feel is life-ending or is something that they can't live with, they can't go on with. So I commend you and everybody who's made the effort.
I'm going to try to find a quote. I don't want to interrupt you for too long.
No problem. You just got it recently?
Yeah, just like the last couple of days, from one of the guys who went across the country for the book.
Please share with us the quote.
Okay, this is from Ryan Kelly, one of the guys whose prosthetic leg hangs on the wall in the bar. And this is what he wrote for our book. I just got it this week. Very rarely do ideas conceived on a bar stool or in a hot tub, long after the sunset, change your life for the better. I choke up, let alone the lives of thousands of others. But that's the improbably true story of Soldier Ride and my involvement with it. I'm not sure what my life would have looked like had I not joined Chris and Tech in Colorado for the inaugural Soldier Ride, or decided, along with my buddy Heath, to ride again the second year across country. But I know for a fact that my life has been profoundly better because of that opportunity. I will forever be grateful to the folks at Stephen Talkhouse, who not only came up with an idea to raise money and awareness for my generation of wounded warriors, but in the end did so much more. They didn't just raise money, they changed my life and profoundly impacted the lives of so many others of my brothers and sisters in arms.
Thank you for that. Thank
It's
you.
worth getting. I teared up.
Yes, and really, there's a reason for that, right? Because you're making a difference in people's lives. You really are making a difference. Like, by having the bar, it's great. People go there and have great nights, right? And excellent experiences. This is shifting the mindset of
We mustn't forget
people.
all the people that were created because of the men and women that met at the Stephen Talkhouse.
Yeah, of course. That's another epic creation that you've helped foster. Absolutely.
So,
And thank you for sharing that, because I know it's close to your heart. And really, it is that, right? It is a connection of humanity, and it is a connection of service and the connection of helping people that, will be your legacy and will be, part
if you
of
get to help someone, they're doing you a favor.
Right. And that's really, that's the amazing part, right? You feel like you're helping someone and you're doing, but really it's
much
they're
easier
helping.
to give than receive.
Absolutely. So thank you for continuing to do that. And that's something that you do every July, you said?
Every July, we'll be out in the Hamptons again this year, 40 soldiers biking from the Amagansett Fire Department to Sag Harbor and back.
Love it. And these soldiers are they national soldiers? Are they just
They
local?
come from all across the country. And there are some 60-odd rides in all different parts of the country.
Right.
I'm only involved in the one here and the one in Florida.
Great. And it's funny because my next question that I had for you is, have you had a moment at Talkhouse that made you stop and think, this is why I do this? I think we've answered that. I mean, there's probably been a lot of moments, but...
You just look around and you get to make people happy for a living. It's the best job in the world. Makes you old, keeps you young.
What do you mean by it makes you old?
If you're in a bar, 300 days a year drinking and you're up late, you don't age as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Did you know it at first that it would be so iconic? Did you know it that it had the...
No.
So you just
No,
thought...
I thought we could just have a cool bar. And as it took each leap, and those leaps blended together and became almost commonplace, it just became kind of a blur, because you're looking around and you're inhabiting the same space where there are so many ghosts. There are well over 100 people I could name right now who have played there who are no longer alive. 2 of them we lost this week. Last week, David Johansen and Jesse Colin Young this week. So all these people that I've seen there who became close friends of mine who are no longer there, including the people that work there, including the patrons that come there, are now blending with a whole other generation of people. So a guy who was my drinking buddy there, his son came to work for me in the 80s, and now his grandson's working for me. I used to be the youngest one in the bar in 1975. Now I'm the oldest, most times.
I don't know. There's there's a great age range there too.
Oh,
That's
no,
what's
on
so
certain
cool
nights
about it.
it can, that's absolutely true.
It's just, my 20-year-old loves it, goes there with all her friends and...
Your 21-year-old.
Yes, I'm sorry. She's 25. So yes, kids in their 20s. The teenagers who are not 21 for sure always look to try to get in. They can't get in, but they like, thinking about when they can get in legally. And
They find a way to get in illegally in every
okay.
bar in the country.
Yeah, I'm sure. The word on the street is you can't get into Talkhouse unless you're 21, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
And and then I have friends all different ages, older than me, who all say like, "Let's go, let's go."
No, you can. It's absolutely true. You can go to shows, the early shows. After 10:30 at night, it's kids, but it's up until then you can see a whole age range.
And it's phenomenal because of the diversity in acts. And I love the concept of having the local people, the people who are just starting out. And then all of a sudden you get a celebrity that everyone would know, right? People. Who was you had mentioned who the first person was that did that? Who was
the first celebrity that jumped on stage was Billy Joel.
Right.
And that summer, Mick Jones, who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, with Foreigner, played a lot, and so did Paul Simon, so did Jimmy Buffett, so did Paul McCartney, Kathleen Turner sang there. So we had a lot of celebrities in the...
So you're at the bar, and Billy Joel just decides, I'm going up there?
No, I wrote him a letter, actually, and everyone laughed at me and invited him to come down, and he did. I found out where he lived, put it in his mailbox,
Sag Harbor.
and he showed up.
Yeah.
No, then it was not in Sag Harbor. It was somewhere more local. I forget where.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a big part of helping us get started.
What did he sing?
You don't
remember?
I don't.
At that time, right?
But he did a benefit concert for the Retreat, the home for people who were victims of domestic violence. And that's the same year they started, 87, as we did.
So did that become a thing where more celebrities heard Billy Joel?
They did it for a variety of reasons, sometimes for the fun of it. Bon Jovi was good friends with Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, and Southside Johnny would play there. So Bon Jovi came down to hang out and sing with his friend. Paul McCartney came down this summer and jumped on stage with Chad Smith of the Red Hot Chili Peppers and G.E. Smith, who's played there a million times, and he did it for the fun of it. So Paul Simon played there once because the local chef had cancer. Jimmy Buffett played there a zillion times for every charity you could imagine. No one did more for me personally, for that club, or for local and national charities than Jimmy Buffett. He played there with literally 10 to 12 people who I could name right now, from Jerry Jeff Walker to the people in the Coral Reefer Band, Mac McAnally and Peter Mayer. He did it for fun, and he helped me out innumerable times. He helped me fund getting my softball team to Cuba because some of the players couldn't afford to go, and I didn't have the money to take them. He did major benefits for the Wounded Warrior, both at the Talkhouse and in the city and at the North Fork of Long Island. He'd come down and have breakfast with the soldiers in Key West, sing in the square across the street. And for a guy who was getting hit up by every charity in the world, he never said no, and he helped in so many great ways. And the second to last time he performed in June of 2023, before he passed on Labor Day of 2023, he came down to the Talkhouse and sang some songs with Peter and Brendan Mayer.
That's wonderful. I've heard such good things
I
about him.
I can't say enough
as a
about
human. Yeah.
him. That one broke my heart when he passed.
Was it this year or was it last year?
Last year.
Last year, yeah.
2023.
2023. Oh, so maybe.
Year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah. How has the music scene changed in the Hamptons or out east or Long Island?
There's just a lot more of it. There was one big place when I started out, Bay Street in Sag Harbor, and there were a couple of bars that had local bands. But right now, whether you've got Patchogue's got a performing arts center, West Hampton Beach has one, River has one. None of that existed. If you saw really quality music, it was either at Bay Street before the Talkhouse or occasionally at Guildhall. So there's so much more available now. There's more people who are out here year-round, so there's more of an opportunity to have music year-round. I mean, the Hamptons literally shut down in the old days on Labor Day, and it doesn't anymore. No. And part of that was 9/11, part of that was COVID, but a lot of it is people can work from their homes and don't have to go into the city or don't have to go in 5 days a week. So there's been a greater opportunity for more music, and there seems to be a lot more musicians because if they have a venue in which they can play out here and a way to potentially survive economically, or make a little extra dough out here at more places, obviously you're going to encourage more musicians to be here.
Have you ever had an act that was just starting and you weren't sure, and then they blossomed into something that
the Bare
unexpected?
Naked Ladies played for $100, and I knew they were going to be big. Joan Osborne, and a guy named Neil Law in Florida, and Nancy Atlas. The three acts that I knew when I first heard them were phenomenal. And Joan still plays there. Nancy still plays there to this day. But, Joan went on with that song, What If God Were One of Us? And so, yeah, those would be the ones.
Having a front row seat to the music, that you have is it's phenomenal. It's really, really cool.
It's the smallest club in the world doing what it does.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And the other thing that makes it unique is not only that it's small and that creates whatever synergy exists between the musical act and the audience, but if you go into a show at the Talkhouse, you might know 15-20% of the audience, whereas if you go somewhere else to a venue in New York, you're not going to know anyone other than the people you went with. But because you're sharing that experience with people you're friendly with, it enhances it.
Absolutely. I almost feel like it encompasses what we love about off-season, right? So, being here for over 2 decades, very different than what it is today, for sure, post-COVID. But being able to walk around and get to know people and know who they are and know their families and know, just the neighborhood. And I think that there's something, it encompasses that somehow. It's just this beautiful venue of intimate, real, authentic music, collaboration, fun. We want to do that. What would you say is the biggest challenge of keeping it like that?
There were different things that happened at different times in the early years. I don't think it serves anything to go into the blow-by-blow things that made it difficult economically. Obviously, getting shut down with COVID was an unexpected kick. But I had enough people who believed in it, who had money, that when I got in trouble at certain times in the early years, we were able to keep it going. A lot of people don't know it. They'll say you're the owner of the Stephen Talkhouse, and just one of them. There was a time when I needed to sell some stock, and I put an email out to everyone saying, I'm in trouble financially. I want to sell some stock. If anybody wants to buy any, you're not the boss. You can't change policy, and you won't get screwed. And I kind of thought of the Green Bay Packers. So, in effect, a lot of people in this town own a piece of that bar. And the line was down the block to buy it, and everyone who bought that stock back then is very happy they did.
I'm sure they are. So it's really collaborative, right? And it really represents
there are a lot of people who own a piece of the Stephen Talkhouse. Yeah,
really?
There are some people who own main ones, including my partner Jerome Chenier and Adrian Schwartz and Cliff Schwartz. They were there from the beginning, and my stock, my son and daughter own now.
Right. But you're running it. You're running, and your son, of course,
my son is really running it now. I'm still helping with the booking. I'm still there. But I am not the starting quarterback, and I am very happy to be sitting on the sidelines.
You're happy to take a break from it.
Yeah.
I get it. Does he enjoy it as much as you do?
He does, and he's really good at it. and he's good at it with the younger employees and the guys and gals that are older than much.
Did you see a shift when you sort of handed the reins over to him? Have you seen a shift in the acts that come in, or sort of the experiences for?
If he hadn't
people?
taken the interest he's taken, I would have had to find another him, because I am not that musically astute, and that's not false modesty. So I relied in the early days on acts I knew that I grew up with, and on agents I trusted, which I still rely on. But in terms of coming up with the new acts on the national level, where I'm going to guess he probably now books 60% of them, I don't know one of them, nor would I known one of them. So he knows how to track them and what their popularity is. He's going to go into the city and see them at the Brooklyn Bowl or wherever they play in Manhattan. And he's been finding those acts that I never would have found.
What do you think draws? Because there's got to be a percentage that asks you to perform there, not only him looking and searching for acts, but I'm sure that
Yeah, I
draws.
mean, there's a million people who want to play there, and really what it comes down to is if they can, if it's a national act, and by that, or an act that's going to be in the earlier slot, meaning 7 or 8 o'clock at night, they've got to be able to sell 130 tickets, and at a price depending on what you pay them. So if you pay them X and the ticket price is X, ticket prices there vary widely, but that's not based on anything we arbitrarily pick out of the air. It's based on what the act charges us. And the late night bands have got to be fun bands that, guys and gals want to dance to.
Stay up until
And
to watch.
if you fall somewhere else where you don't have music that fits, party 10 o'clock on dance music, or early, and I've got 130 friends coming to see me, then it doesn't make sense. So we can't do that.
Right. So you have, just for people who don't know, are you open year round? And you said
We're
something
open
about
year round, and from mid-May to mid-September, it's 7 days a week, and then it's anywhere from 2 to 3 days a week
of acts.
with music.
Right. So, and in one evening, it could be 2 acts or 3 acts, or is it
In the
just
summer, yeah.
Yeah.
In the winter on weekends, there's generally 2 acts. There's always something at 8 o'clock, whether it's a fundraiser or whether it's a local or a national act that's going to draw its own following.
Right.
Because we're not going to have walk-in. We don't have food, so no one's walking into the Talkhouse at 7 o'clock and spending $60 unless they want to be there for a specific act.
Right.
So that's what that is. 10 o'clock on, it's younger people.
Right. We go to sleep.
Not always younger people, but it's just people who don't really necessarily know who's playing and just want to go, no, it's going to be a fun time.
Right. It's a great place. I just, it's the one place that anytime you drive through whatever time, however late, all the different townships are closed down. The place that has a line down the block is Stephen Talkhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's a fun question. If you could bring any artist, living or gone, to perform at Talkhouse, who would it be and why?
It's like asking who was the girl you loved the most. In the moment in which you're seeing him, in the moment I saw Paul Simon sing Homeward Bound, I'd love to see that again. But in the moment I saw Jimmy Buffett sing Margaritaville or Come Monday, I'd love to see that again. Or Paul McCartney. So each person had their niche at a certain period of time that it's really hard to compare to. I can't tell you how many nights I've been there and someone said, this is the best concert I ever saw. And for them, in that moment, they believe they're saying the truth. But the truth of the matter is, they've had many moments, and I've had many moments like that. I mean, look, I love the Rolling Stones, and Mick Jagger's been in there a couple times. Keith Richards been in there once. Mick Taylor played there. Bobby Keys, the sax player who's since passed, played there. Ron Wood played down in Florida. So if you want to ask me my favorite rock band, it's the Rolling Stones. If you want to ask me my favorite singer-songwriter, it's Bob Dylan. But there's been a million people in there, including some of the local musicians, Joan Osborne, Nancy Atlas, Indy Eaton, Cliff Black. Gene Casey, and now I'm going to miss people, but
Yeah, and
Josh
we're gonna
Purcell,
get
you know, they all in their time had their, fingers on the strings of my heart or something like that.
Yeah. Well, really, yeah, you connected with them, and I think that there is truth to what the people are telling you, that it actually is the best concert of their lives, because it just everything comes together, and it's just
There
like
are so
this
many just
wonderful moment.
great concerts and great moments where things happen. 3 times before we had generator, the power went out, and Rick Danko of the band, the bass player for the band, who's no longer around, Glenn Tilbrook, the singer of Squeeze, who's going to be there in a couple of weeks, and who was the other one? Martin Sexton, who still plays there and will play there again this summer. No power, and they start playing acoustically. There was one moment where, Buddy Guy, who's one of the greatest guitar players of all time, went outside and hitched a ride with his guitar remote and got driven to Brent's. And I
chicken?
found him down there
Yeah.
drinking a beer. And I said, had to pick him up and get him back again. But, they're just different moments. You want another quick story?
I want a great moment, sure. Great
Okay,
story.
the 5 blind boys of Alabama are just that, 5 blind boys from Alabama. They're now much younger than the 5 blind boys I had back in 1990, but my friend John Alexander has a house up the road near the Talkhouse, and he said, could you bring them up after their show to sing an acoustic song? They sang a cappella, no musical instruments. And they're old school musicians in ties and jackets, all very older guys, all black. Not that obviously that matters, but they are and were. And so I won't drink and drive, so I walk them up Windmill Lane, one hand on each back. We walk into this private party. There's Chevy Chase, Barbra Streisand, Lorne Michaels, the producer, Saturday Night Live, Paul Simon, all these celebrities. They sing their song. I'm walking back to the Talkhouse. I look back to make sure the line isn't meandering out into the road, and the 5th blind boy is looking up at the moon. So I get back to the bar. I buy him all a shot. I go, not for nothing, but why are you looking up at the moon if you're blind? He goes, I'm not blind. The 5th blind boy died last week. This is the only gig I could get. Don't tell anyone.
That is hysterical.
And it's true.
And are they still performing?
Yeah, but I don't know who they
Who
are
they
now.
are, right.
This was 35
That
years
is
ago.
so
But
funny.
yeah, you can still book that
That
5-person
band.
a cappella group.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have so many. Are you looking forward to anything this upcoming season?
Sirius XM Radio does shows there, and I can't thank the people at Sirius, especially the president of Sirius, Scott Greenstein, who lives down the road, because he's really put the Talkhouse, taken the Talkhouse wherever we were, and thrown us 10 notches up the ladder by having performers like Coldplay, like The Killers, like Mumford and Son,
Ed Sheeran.
like Dwight Yoakam, like Brandy Alexander, Brandy Carlisle, Brandy Alexander, that's a Freudian slip, like Shaggy, like Dave Matthews, like Ed Sheeran, like Jelly Roll. So if they come up with something, I'll be thrilled, and we'll see if they do. That's always a magical time. There's another couple who do charity work there, Greg and Nicole. They've done Marcus King. They've done The Revivalists. And because of their economic positioning and wherewithal and sponsorship or whatever things they've got, they can also do acts that I would otherwise never be able to afford. And so if they come back this year, which I hope and expect they will, that's something to look forward to. But as for the shows themselves, each one, I'm looking forward to seeing Loudon Wainwright. He's been playing there every year for 38 years. He's had his 50th, 60th, and 70th birthday there, and so it's that, you get to see these people. You become friends with them. Martin Sexton's a friend of mine. Joan Osborne's a friend of mine, that kind of stuff.
So there are, would you say 50% of the people who come back after year, or is it more, is it less?
That's probably an accurate number of people who have been there for a while. you know, and probably 50% have a 5+ year history with the club.
Yeah.
And 50% have a 2 or under year, or 3
Right,
under
or
year.
new, or
or
just
new.
starting. Yeah. So in looking back, since you're a writer and you're writing your memoir and all that stuff, you're looking back now, how do you think it's turned out?
I couldn't. I've had some tough moments there, and I've had some electrifying moments. But on balance, as far as working the club, I couldn't have been happier. I've really worked with really great people. They're all friends of mine. I literally, everyone there who works there, if they make a call, that is the call. I don't overrule anyone. I've really have no occasion to ever let anyone go. It's just, I'm very lucky.
It's like a family, it feels like.
Yeah, it's a family that actually gets along.
Fantastic. You don't find that a lot. Anything else you're looking forward to, personally or professionally?
A martini at 5:00.
Peter, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure getting to know you.
Well, it was a pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah, and hearing the stories. And I know you've got hundreds of stories, which I appreciate them. I think that they are, they're just legendary, like the Talkhouse.
Good
And
luck
thank
with
you
your
for
podcast, and
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.